My guess is that the administration will continue the process that they embarked on several months ago. And according to that process, we are going to start pulling back troops from Afghanistan this summer. And there'll be probably a 2 or more year period during which U.S. troops will be drawn down. But like Iraq, where this is also going on, I assume that the U.S. will have troops in Afghanistan for several years, probably at a lower level. You know, the process is intended to give the Afghan government time to build up their own security forces, so that we can, you know, that we can draw our forces down over time, and they can provide for their own security. But Afghanistan's at least as much of a challenge as Iraq was, in the sense that these forces are very they don't have a high level of training and high level of expertise, and so that was very much the case for Iraq. So it takes years really to train military and security forces to be at a level where they can provide for their own security. So I imagine we're going to be there in Afghanistan for several years, not necessarily at 100,000 personnel. I imagine that will go down to 50,000 or less within 2 years. I think we have to just continue doing what we have been doing, you know, being vigilant about the possibility of terrorism. I don't think there's any concern that Islamic countries are going to react to the killing of Osama bin Laden. In fact, a lot of countries, a lot of Islamic countries, and a lot of Muslims are pleased with what happened. I guess the fear would be that some of Osama bin Laden's followers will take this opportunity to try to do something. So I think we just need to continue doing what we have been doing over the last 10 years, just being careful about terrorism and terrorists. I think Pakistan is a very important country in that region, and I think the United States has to continue doing what it can to convince Pakistan to support the efforts against terrorism, including what remains of Al-Qaeda. But clearly there's a lot of tension between the United States government and the Pakistani government over strategy and tactics for dealing with terrorism. So I think we just need to continue doing what we have been doing, is working as closely with them as possible. Whether they knew about it or not, I think that's a good question that needs to be looked at. You know, there's some who would argue that someone had to know and someone had to be assisting Osama bin Laden. That doesn't necessarily mean individuals at the highest levels of the Pakistani government were aware of Osama bin Laden's presence in the country, but perhaps there were individuals and groups inside of government and outside of government who were aware. I don't know. I think it does. You know, everyone is suggesting that Osama bin Laden was the symbolic leader of Al-Qaeda and the spiritual leader of Al-Qaeda. So I think by eliminating that leader, I think it does have an impact on the efforts against terrorism. That said, I'm sure that Al-Qaeda has other individuals who will step up to lead this movement, you know, and there are still Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda related operatives spread all over the world. So, you know, it doesn't end the global efforts against terrorism, but I think it was nevertheless an important step for the United States in particular, the country that was most affected by Al-Qaeda over the years that Al-Qaeda engaged in these terrorist attacks.
With other countries or reflect on Obama's foreign policy?
I think that's a complicated question. I think it just depends. You know, there are certain countries where we're always going to have a strained relationship. There are other countries where, you know, we have a better relationship. I don't know that what happened a couple days ago in Pakistan is going to fundamentally change U.S. relations with the Islamic world. You know, again, there were many Muslims who I'm sure are angry about what happened. There are many Muslims who are happy with what happened. As President Obama said on Sunday night, Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda murdered Muslims in many, you know, in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places where Somalia, Yemen, and other places where they operate. They're largely killing Muslims, fellow Muslims. So you know, this is somebody who is an enemy really to both Muslims and non-Muslims, and so I think a vast majority of people, both Muslim and non-Muslim, understand that Osama bin Laden was not a good person, and his death is probably better for the world, or the world is better because of his death.